My sisters and brothers, the Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, Lord.
There was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is in Jerusalem, at the sheep gate, a pool called in Hebrew Bethesda, with 5 porticos. In these lay a number of ill, blind, lame, and crippled. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been ill for a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be well?" The sick man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. While I am on my way, someone else gets down there before me." Jesus said to him, "Rise, take up your mat, and walk." Immediately the man became well, took up his mat, and walked. Now that day was a Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who was cured, "It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to carry your mat." He answered them, "The man who made me well told me, 'Take up your mat and walk.'" They asked him, "Who is the man who told you, 'Take it up and walk'?" The man who was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had slipped away, since there was a crowd there. After this, Jesus found him in the temple area and said to him, "Look, you are well. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you." The man went and told the Jews that Jesus was the one who made him well. Therefore, the Jews began to persecute Jesus because he did this on the Sabbath. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
H2O, water. Part of my name, water man. Hence, water is very, very important to me. I grew up 1.2 miles away in Connecticut on Long Island Sound, always by or in the water, fishing, swimming, walking. The ocean is where I relax. Calming sound. Great feel to be buoyed up by the salt water. Floating, love riding waves in the summer. Here in Syracuse, New York, I'm deprived of the salt water. So I make do. I have Onondaga Lake, not too far from where I live on the north side. I'm not swimming in it yet. I'm a runner, so I use the creek walk that connects the lower part of Onondaga Lake to downtown. I see the water. I've been here to Green Lakes to swim in that wonderful green Merrimictic Lake. Both readings today talk about water. First reading, Ezekiel's vision. Even though it was not real, even though it was a vision, I bet somehow he was a little bit frightened, especially when he couldn't wade any longer and had to swim. But then he saw the abundant life that the water made possible all around, and so realized the water was a blessing. Our gospel that I just proclaimed to you from St. John also speaks about water. The water of blessing that a sick man has been trying to reach for 38 years. 38 years is a long time. I did the math. He probably came to that pool more than 13,800 times, all in vain. Jesus comes, and he recognizes him, knowing that he was waiting for a very long time. And he asks him, "Do you want to be well?" Instead of answering Jesus' question, the man explains his situation. "I've tried to get to the pool. No one cares enough to help me. And when I try myself, I've always been beaten out by someone else." The sick man wanted Jesus to be the one to carry him into the pool. You know the rest. Jesus, much to the chagrin of those hypocritical Pharisees, asks the sick man to stand and pick up his mat, and he does. What a graced moment for that man. The moral of the story: sometimes we, you and I, turn to God with the wrong goal in mind. The man wanted Jesus to help him get into the pool. He didn't necessarily want him to cure him. We too, we turn to God looking sometimes for what we think we need. We think we know what's what. We try to explain to God what we need. But maybe, in the end, we really need to trust God a little more. We need, maybe, to hand over our concerns to God, knowing that God knows what is best for us all the time. If I may, I would like to tell you the story of how it came to be that I am now the chaplain at Syracuse University and SUNY Environmental School, Forest Science and Forestry. It started February 5th, 2016, from a phone call from my minister provincial. He said, "I'd like you to think about Syracuse University." I was in my 11th year at Elon University in central North Carolina, very, very content, very happy, not looking for a move. So my immediate answer to my provincial superior was, "No, not interested. I've thought about it. Thank you very much." He said, "Okay, I'll be praying about that for you." Worst nightmare, when the provincial is praying for you and a decision he wants you to make. So, in my heart of hearts, I was saying no to our provincial, convinced. Unfortunately, my psyche did not get that message. Every night, I'm used to sleeping for 5 hours. That's as much as I need, 5 hours. Well, ever since he posed the question, 2 hours max, tossing, turning, rolling around like a rotisserie chicken. Finally, my spiritual director in April of 2016 said to me, how could you possibly refuse the provincial without knowing what you're refusing? I said, I know what I'm refusing. I'm in North Carolina where spring comes in March. I'm not a fan of the snow. I'm not a fan of the ice. I don't think I could drive in it anymore. And there's no salt water in Syracuse, New York. He said, make the trip. Monsignor Jim Lang happened to be my tour guide. Made appointments with the Dean of Hendricks Chapel, an appointment with Bishop Cunningham, and an appointment with Chancellor Kent Syverud of Syracuse University. On Tuesday night, I had seen the dean and I had seen the bishop, and I was still writing my refusal, no, to our provincial superior. Wednesday morning, 8:30 a.m., Thursday I was leaving. Wednesday, I had my early appointment with Chancellor Syverud. He had a file this thick on things that I had done in Elon University. The man did his homework. He said to me in these words, you could easily rest on your laurels. I had 2 more years at Elon University. You could easily rest on your laurels there, or you could come here and do what needs to be done. And he went and presented me with a few options that I really didn't think of before I met with him. And when I finally, here's the exact thing. He said, have you met many students? So I said, yes. The first 2 were my tour guides. I didn't pick them. Someone else did. They were 2 of my former altar servers in Danbury, Connecticut when I was pastor. One, it was an upstate medical center. His sister was a junior at SU. Providence? I didn't take it that way at first. So I said, yes, I've met some students, told them about that. I said, I've met some at the Catholic Center, I've met some at Hendricks Chapel. And I said, but this very evening on the schedule at the Catholic Center is something called Power Hour. And Power Hour is an opportunity for graduate students and undergrads to come together to look at the upcoming Sunday scriptures. And I said, I'll be attending that, so I'll meet some new students. He said, what time? I said, 7:45. He said, where? I said, the Catholic Center. He said, I'll join you. And he did. So at that moment, I said, this man is investing not only his promises to me, he's also investing his person and his time, sharing his own faith with these students. And I made the decision to come to Syracuse University. And as I made that decision, a flood of grace, a flood of warmth and knowledge that this was what God wanted all along. And I thought I knew what I wanted. Actually, I knew what I wanted. It wasn't what God wanted. My sisters and brothers, every day we have an opportunity to say yes to God, to be flooded by grace, to be renewed in discipleship, to follow in the footsteps of Christ. Each and every day we can resist, like I did. I'm sure you know the story of resisting God's will. We can resist, but God is going to win one way or another. He's always going to win. We have these moments of grace, this time of Lent, to try and conform our will to that of God's. The sooner we do it completely, the more at peace we'll be. And we'll experience that